welcome back to another episode of Masked Monologues. Today, I am so excited to have with me Samantha. She is a career and mindset coach. Can you tell us a bit about what you do and how you got started?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been a coach in the last 10 years in different settings, but mostly in nonprofit settings. And I have worked with many women finding their career, their skill sets, things that they're passionate about. And I myself have been in the creative space. I studied music and I've just found myself over the last 10 years really, loving, really empowering women and the things that they feel passionate to do. And so I recently launched my own business called Fulfillment Fusion. And so, yeah, it is a career and mindset coaching program and really targeting to help women find that fulfilled life.
That's wonderful. So, you say that you've been doing nonprofit organizations and also
Yeah.
music. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what you were doing there?
Yeah. I studied music composition, writing, music writing. So not quite pop and stuff style. We used to joke as composers that we could just go to each other's productions and concerts and more kind of experimental type of music. But it was definitely a fun period of my time. And I found my just not really wanting to give up the aesthetics of the experimental world. And so I ventured out into more coaching, and the nonprofit coaching that I did were really for young youth programs and college age programs, helping people to discover their spiritual journey as well as their purpose in life and things like that. So it was really fun just working with really young people who are really trying to discover their life, really, and their dreams.
Yes, and you say that you do a lot of career and mindset coaching. Do you work specifically with entrepreneurs? You said young people. What type of professionals have you worked with?
Yeah, so I've worked with an array of professionals. Some of them are creatives, like artists and some musicians, and some of them are more wanting to do nonprofit work. Of course, that's the setting I was working with. I've also coached people who are wanting to do more specific professions like counseling or teacher or things like that. And so it's been a good kind of across the board spectrum of people. And I think, but yeah, I would say a lot of them have been in somewhat of the entrepreneurial style type of industry. Of course, as creatives who would be freelancing and building their own brands and things like that. Yeah, it's definitely been across the board, but I would say many people are wanting to do more things on their own and just build their own type of business and niche.
Yes. And I'm just wondering, how do you usually approach a client or how do you work together with them? Do you start off with tactics, with objectives? What do you do?
Yeah, so I think my approach really is assessing some of the areas of need, of course, the client feels. And one thing that's quite unique about what I'm trying to achieve is usually with career or business coaching is obviously very targeted at the
Yes.
business and the career. I'm also actually a mental health life coach, a certified one. So that's one area that I've been really wanting to bring into kind of my coaching methods is really involving the
Mhm.
mental health needs, which
Yes.
is a huge thing, obviously. And so, yeah, usually I do a 360 assessment and just a deep dive, see what are some areas that are really needing support or needing to level up. And from there, I obviously have a blueprint, general format that I really do tailor, as that's the beauty of coaching, right? It's not a one size fit all thing.
Yes.
And I really work with my clients to achieve that fulfilled life. And it's not necessarily just a milestone that you achieve, I believe, fulfillment. I think we
Yes.
often think, oh, I'll be fulfilled if my social status or my social media posting, whatever
Yeah.
form, or I sell so many albums or so many whatever. But I do really believe you can
Mhm.
feel fulfilled in the process. And I think that's a huge thing for us, right?
Yes.
It would suck if we have to keep waiting on the milestone to feel like we're happy or fulfilled.
And with the mental health aspect of it, what obstacles do these career-driven individuals usually face? Is it maybe that they're
Yeah.
overloaded, or is it that they need those benchmarks, or they need a physical, tangible product to see success that they've done, or they just need something
Mhm.
out there to represent all the work they've put into it?
Yeah, and I think in terms of mental health needs, number one thing that I hear a lot is just the loneliness that they feel.
Mhm.
I think as creators, entrepreneurs, freelancers, the nature of your work is you do it on your own a lot, right?
Yes.
And you do collaborate, you do work with people on some levels, but
Mhm.
I think it feels different because you're carrying your own brand, you're carrying your work, so it's all on you. And so
Yes.
I think that's a huge mental health need, right? Aside from the pressure, the responsibility, right? And another area attached to that is financial stability, right? Because
Mhm.
you're not, if you're freelancing, doing creative entrepreneurial, your income is literally attached to how much you put in or product you're putting out. And so that's also a huge pressure because you're not just getting a month to month steady paycheck. And so I think that's one thing that I really come in also with the career planning is helping to these freelancers, entrepreneurs to have the longevity when you're starting out as a freelancer or creative, you're just thinking, okay, this is my kind of whether it's art or a passion or whatever
Yes.
it is that you're creating, you're just trying to sell that and get yourself
Mhm.
out there. But once you've established yourself for 3 to 5 years and maybe your name is out there big, you get a good stream of, and from there, like then what? And so that's also where I see a lot of kind of pain points where they're like, okay, like, how do I level up? What is my game plan for longevity and even income? So I think, yeah, some of those things are some of my passions to really see these creatives, entrepreneurs thrive because obviously they have good products or they have a voice, they have a passion that they're trying to get out there. And it would be sad if it was just simple things that they can do
Mhm.
to overcome some hurdles to keep them going.
Yes. And a lot with being creative or being an entrepreneur, you have to deal with this instability. Do you have any coping
Yes.
mechanisms to deal with that for other creatives who might be listening to this podcast?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, in terms of vision wise, is I really believe that you just have to continually remind yourself the bigger picture. Cause I think riding the waves of being a freelancer, creative, or
Mhm.
entrepreneur is it's always up and down, right?
Yes.
You think of, wow, you got a great client or you got a great project. And then for 3 months, you're like, wow, I'm as dry as the desert. What the heck
Yeah.
am I doing here? So I think reminding yourself of the why and the bigger picture. Okay, hey, this is what I've signed up for. This is why. This is my
Yes.
vision. I think that's really important. And I think practically speaking, I think mental health wise, I think you just have to establish some kind of healthy routines, whatever you like to call it. I don't like the word routine because it makes it sound boring and oh my
Yes.
God. But I
Uh-huh.
think it's just some kind of thing, rhythms of life. I think that just helps you feel like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm okay. I have these few things that kind of keeps me on track type of thing.
Mhm.
And I think honestly, yeah, just career wise,
Mhm.
having those goals and planning, working ways to level up yourself in different areas, it's a
Yes.
huge thing.
And I'm wondering if you notice any commonalities between the creatives, entrepreneurs, freelancers who are more successful and happier doing what
Yeah.
they do, as opposed to ones who might be going through rough patches.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think often think we think of entrepreneurs more business and creatives as more like artsy, right?
Yes.
But I think in the heart of all entrepreneurial stuff,
Mhm.
freelancers are really innovation and creativity. And so I think obviously when you are, more successful, it's a little bit more autopilot and
Mhm.
it feels a little bit more easy. But
Yes.
I think the heart of it, is still trying to grow and be creative. I think that's probably the challenge is like how to keep the creative juices going, right? After a while, you're like, okay, what?
Maybe-
And I think, yeah, and I think it's a fair challenge, especially being in the creative space. And so that's, I think, where career development and having someone, a coach to help you almost brainstorm. Hey, because sometimes when you're doing your work, you're looking at it all the time and you're doing it all the
Mhm.
time, right?
Yes,
It's
it's
hard to think
tenuous.
of, yeah, it's hard to think a little bit of maybe it could be like this too. And so I think having eyes that are not your own and
Mhm.
looking at your business from another perspective really does help often. And, it doesn't necessarily mean you leave your creative space or whatever,
Mhm.
but I think there are definitely different avenues to multiply and grow that creativity.
Yes. And with the nonprofits that you work with, because with a nonprofit, you have a different measure of success than something that's
Yes.
solely for profit, solely for
Yeah.
making money, gaining an income. What do you use to be as benchmarks, like your mission? How do you work with a client to basically get that vision and bring it into fruition?
Yeah, the clients that I worked with in nonprofit sector were offshoot of different trainings. So
Mhm.
I would say a lot of the benchmarks were like, okay, if they could complete certain trainings and have a good basic sense of where they're going. And I would say, especially with the kind of demographics that I worked with, if you're talking about fresh high school grads or college grads, they
Yes.
are really at the beginning. So like a good benchmark would be like us, like them knowing really where they're heading, like what is
Uh-huh.
profession or whatever that they want to go into, and some sort of game plan to get there would be,
Mhm.
a good success. And I think a lot of it's also some kind of financial understanding and planning. And I
Yes.
think that's huge too for
Mhm.
entrepreneurs and creatives. Like oftentimes we feel like we have a passion to do something we want to create, but it's like, but the money's always the problem, right? Like where
Mhm.
the heck we're gonna find that money to
Yes.
put that single out or put that album out or
Mhm.
whatever. So I think some of that is where having planning and coaching is super helpful because there could be seasons of maybe where there's like capital raising, right?
Yes.
Or maybe for in the nonprofit world that I
Mhm.
worked in, like I had to send some people, but I know you want to be freelancer, you can
Mhm.
XYZ, but sorry, but for now, you're going to have to just find a job, maybe for the next 6 months or 9 months,
Uh-huh.
just so that you can pay rent. That's just reality. And I think that's a
Uh-huh.
balance that entrepreneurs and creators have
Mhm.
to. But that's also the payoff of doing something that
Yes.
you love and enjoy, right? Rather
Mhm.
than let's just get a 9 to 5 job and to pay the bills.
Yes, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs or creatives have this misconception where they can go from 0 to 100 in about a day, where in
Yes.
the sense
Oh my
where
gosh.
they think that they can just quit their job tomorrow, all of a sudden run a
Oh,
successful business, and then reach
yes.
all of their dreams. And when you actually go back and you look at it, you notice that no, it's been a gradual climb to the top of the
Mhm.
mountain. It's been a slow and steady race as opposed to a sprint. And so a lot of people
Yes.
were talking about the financial aspect of it,
Yep.
where you need to pay rent, you need to save money to
Yep.
invest in your company. For someone who's starting
Yes.
out, might have no money saved up, they might not be able to invest. What would your advice
Yep.
be to them? Would it be to get a job and then save money, start your side hustle, and then have your side hustle basically trump the
Mhm.
income you're making from your actual
Right.
job, or how would you approach
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So I like to approach it like a layer of cake. And it's touch on a little bit on work-life balance. Some people, I hate the word balance or even the word side hustle per se.
Yes.
I think all of us really want to do something that we enjoy pretty much all the time when we
Mhm.
can, right? But then there's the reality. So it's always this fight of, oh, ideology versus real life, right? And I just feel like it gets tiring if you think like that all the time, right? Because you
Yes.
just think of in terms of lose and win. And so that's where I think mindset work is really important because I think if we looked at it more like a cake with layers,
Mhm.
right? And you can pursue and can think of it as building layers with different levels of intensity.
Yeah.
And so maybe reality right now is yes, I have to pay rent, and that's a big chunk of my take per se.
Right.
I gotta deal with this. But at the same time, you can still keep different ways of, building, whether it's building a business or even keeping your creativity going, things that you're working on that really gives you life or that you really enjoy at a different level of intensity. And
Yes.
so, what I really encourage people is to think of that in that way. And so, you're ever growing your cake, really, like in terms
Mhm.
of the length or the layers or whatever, but at different intensity at different times. And
Yes.
so, because the truth is, even if you're really successful and you are bringing 100,000, a month or a
Mhm.
year, or whatever, you still have to manage logistics of life. Even if you have to pay someone to do that, like you still have to manage stuff, right? Like I think reality never really escapes from us, ours,
Mhm.
although we most of the time do live in a more out there world. But the truth is, I think these are some of the mindsets and skills that I think it's helpful to build in even as you're building your business,
Mhm.
because that just means you get into the habit of doing that. And as your business grow, actually, as you have more audience, there is more logistics sometimes involved, right?
Yes.
So I think it just helps you to keep building kind of all aspects of your life and business, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful insights on my podcast. I'm wondering if you'd like to shout out to any of your social media channels, your website. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so currently my main channel of connection is through Instagram and it's
Mhm.
called Fulfillment Coaching. And so you can find me on that or you can email me at careermindsetcoach@gmail.com. So literally just that career mindset coach. And yeah, I would love to connect with anyone who's just really wanting someone in their corner, really, to cheer them on and really help set out some of these career mindset as well as mental health care. Love to really connect and be a part of their journey.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on my podcast. And if you listeners like this podcast episode and you want more episodes like this, please do share it with a friend or family member. And we hope to see you next time.